ABC's The Lookout continues. And now, let's go knock on the door of our undercover house.
You have a dream house, right? Who doesn't? Maybe it's got a picket fence. Let's give it some shutters. Big old apple tree and a swing. Cute flower beds. And then you own one. And very quickly the dream can become a nightmare. Take all those superstorms and franken flooding of late. A lot of people worry that all that water will lead to the nightmare of mold. Mold inside your walls, blooming from room to room. Pretty big worry, yes? Well, Jen thought so too.
Have a good day, you guys.
So she agreed to help us with a kind of experiment. Her town in New Jersey wasn't flooded, but she worried that an old leak may have infected her home with a mold problem.
I have children, and I certainly wouldn't want mold in my house.
But it's hard to tell. You often can't see it or smell it. Mold inspectors make big promises and ads and coupons to come to your rescue. But with lots of money on the line, who can you trust?
I don't see any problems. Nothing, right?
To find out, we bring in two experts, Richard Shaughnessy and Bill Southern, to thoroughly inspect Jen's home, which we've rented, and tell us whether she does have a mold problem.
You have a flashlight?
Richard is a professor and researcher.
There's no moisture here.
And Bill is an environmental consultant. Both have a wealth of experience and are highly regarded.
Everything here is fairly consistent.
They comb her house top to bottom, looking for any telltale signs of mold and moisture.
We're at zero, so this stuff is bone dry.
Every house has some mold, but it's the kind and the amount that determine if it's a problem.
No sign of mold.
Jen's home gets a clean bill of health.
So in your two expert opinions, there is no mold remediation needed in this house?
Correct.
Absolutely.
And there's something else you should know. They made several openings that would allow inspectors to see inside the walls for their diagnosis.
It's a clean machine.
Finally, we pepper the house with hidden cameras and microphone, put a control room in the garage, and call in 7 mold inspectors.
Come in. Oh, okay, have a seat. So
First up, this man. We call him the Flash.
he had a leak about 1.5 years ago.
For these rooms alone, our experts say a thorough visual investigation with temperature and moisture readings should take anywhere from a half hour to an hour and a half.
Let me show you upstairs.
He starts at 1:16, races through the bedrooms, attic, and the living room. And by 1:21, just 5 minutes later, is sitting down in the kitchen with Jen. Could he possibly have gotten enough information to make a diagnosis so quickly?
I'm going to send this all information to my office.
Okay.
So they'll give the estimate during the 2 days, all right?
But an estimate for what?
For what? Was it to remove mold? Do I have mold? The ducts, what do you know?
Despite repeatedly asking, she never gets an answer and has to wait for the promised estimate.
Thank you very much.
Our expert Richard says no one could thoroughly examine a home in that amount of time.
It's one of the worst investigations I've ever seen.
Move it this way.
Next up, this team. We call them the Scare Pair.
But it doesn't look right to me.
They reach a conclusion even quicker, in just 4 minutes. The water stain on the living room wall is the clincher for them.
There's mold. I think there's mold there.
You think there is mold there?
Absolutely.
They continue inspecting and take their diagnosis a step further with a very frightening warning.
By not doing anything behind that wall, the mold is actually still going to grow, and it's going to continue to grow until it's too big back there. It's going to push against the sheetrock and push the sheetrock out.
And not only that, it's going to spread. You're going to start feeding. You're going to start spreading all over the sheet.
Yes, it'll spread past the beams, around the beams, on the rest of the sheetrock, on the sheetrock.
I'm not sure.
You're laughing.
It's pretty funny because if there were an ongoing leak, if the wall were wet, then there could be some substance to what he's saying. But did he take moisture measurements?
In fact, our hidden cameras catch him taking that reading when Jen was out of the room.
If he took moisture measurements, he would have known that the wall was dry. And therefore, that entire statement has nothing to do with reality.
Next,
You can air sample, chair sample. You can air sample, door sample. Physical sample, brief samples.
our third contractor has a different approach.
It'll tell us the type of mold, how high the levels are, whether it's toxic or not.
He wants to do a lot of test sampling.
And what does that cost?
It's $350 for each sample.
We settle on 3 for a total of $1,100, including the inspection fee, just to find out if we have a problem.
But Ann, those tests, they're expensive. Holy moly. I mean, I didn't think you'd have to do that many. They're expensive.
It's pretty standard.
The pricing is standard, $350, yeah?
We've been doing this for 20 years.
Holy moly.
Is that a customary rate in your experience?
That is the highest rate I've ever heard. I would say it's double the highest of the more customary charges.
Not only that, he gives Jen a receipt for $725 less than she paid. Wonder why? He isn't the only contractor who tests. 2 others do sampling as well, though their tests are nowhere near as costly and their results, as you'll see later, quite different. There were also a couple of others who didn't test.
Looks good.
Looks good, okay.
But conducted thorough inspections. Like this man.
You made it, Joseph, huh?
He tells us he's a mycologist.
Fine, come in, please. How are you? Are you a scientist?
Well, I was born a scientist.
Wait.
He says he can sniff mold out.
When I walked into a house, I could tell pretty much right away if that house has a potential for mold, because molds give off gases and they give off an odor. I don't detect any of that right now.
But just to be safe, he comes armed with a lot of equipment.
There's no reason to believe there's any mold in there.
Turns out the nose knows. His diagnosis is right on.
No,
no mold
yeah.
condition.
Okay, good.
Zero.
Good.
What about the others? What will they prescribe? And at what cost?